Hi friends, how are you today? Welcome back to another skincare and scary stories episode. I'm Faiza, and if you're new here, hi. I talk about true crime cases on my channel, and if that's something that you're interested in, do like and subscribe. But on this side of my channel, I talk all things spooky and I do my skincare. So if you're into that combination, you know where to find me. So I watched another film, you guys. I am telling you. Have you seen Watcher? It's on Netflix. If you like films that induce paranoia and gaslight the daylights out of you, I highly recommend for you guys to watch this film. It really creeped me out. It's like the definition of a peeping Tom. You know those creepy guys that peek through the window cracks and they just watch people? That's the kind of film I am explaining today. And it put shivers down my spine. It creeped me out, especially how they acted in this film. It was top notch in my opinion. So I highly recommend you guys watch it and come back because I will be spoiling it for you. But if you guys don't care, then continue watching. Julia and Francis were an American couple that moved to Bucharest in Romania together. Julia was an inspiring actress, but she gave up on her dreams. It doesn't really explain why she didn't want to be an actress anymore, but she just said, and I quote, "It wasn't for me." So she moved with her husband to Romania, and I don't know what he does for a living. It's not really specified in the film. However, he works long hours, which leaves Julia all alone in her apartment, you see. And right across the building, she could see, other flats and so on. And there's a man. It's not even funny. There's a man just standing there. You could see a silhouette just staring right across into her apartment, and she noticed him, and he's standing there motionless, like the creep he is. And at one point she was anxious about it, and she felt like maybe he's not watching my building, maybe he's not looking right at me. So she brushes it off, but the paranoia and the anxiety just builds up throughout the film. So Julia's fears grow even stronger when she watches the news and she finds out that a local serial killer is out there decapitating women and just is up to no good. And she became so paranoid and very restless ever since she found out about it. And her husband was like translating things for her, but he skipped out the part where women were getting decapitated. She was like, what did the guy say on the news? And he was like, just played it off like it wasn't a big deal, So while her husband's at work, Julia just explores the town and she goes to a local movie theater, okay? She goes to the cinema and she's sitting there, and there's only like a couple of people and they're all being kind of creepy, very nonchalant. Nobody really does small talk. And she was sitting there. And then all of a sudden a man appears behind her and he sits directly behind her. And then he leans in closer and sniffs her hair. Like, ew. She freaks out and she leaves. She just storms out of the cinema and she was like, F this, I'm gone. Julia then flees to a supermarket. And she was like, oh, that was creepy, especially since there's a serial killer called the Spider roaming around Bucharest. She was extra vigilant. You won't believe this, but the exact same guy that was sitting directly behind her in the cinema followed her to the supermarket. She recognized him by his distinctive vintage brown shoes, and she had an eye on him. She really did. And she could tell that this guy was following her. So she roamed from one aisle to another, and you can distinctively see that he's following her, So she's standing there, he's right on her tail. So what she does is, she realized that he's following her, so she drops her shopping basket and goes behind a nearby exit, where the staff room is, where they load all of the groceries and so on. And then she was just watching him through the double fire exit doors, and he was there and he was just looking at the fallen shopping basket on the floor, and she was just really freaked out by him. Like, why is this man following me? So Julia, that's her name, she basically tells her husband about this guy that's being creepy that followed her, and they decided to go back to the local grocery store and look at the security footage. But her husband dismissed it because it looked like she was watching him, and it didn't seem very believable at that time, you know? So Julia was just overwhelmed with paranoia. And then that same evening, she goes back to the apartment while her husband's away for work, and she stands there and she could see the silhouette of the strange man again, and she wanted to know whether or not he's actually looking at the apartment or it's just a stigma of her imagination. So she slowly waves at him, and then what does he do? He waves back. So he has been watching her this whole time. That is confirmed. He's a peeping Tom, he's a weirdo, he's a creep, and he's creeping on her. She goes out because she's stressed out. She starts smoking, which she completely gave up on, by the way. And she was just outside minding her own business, and then boom, she sees him. She follows him through the subway station all the way to his workplace. And where does this guy work? You would never guess. He's a janitor for a strip club. And who works at that strip club? Her friend, Irina. Like, that's wild. The world is so small at times. Julia and Irina catch up, and they just chit-chatting about the guy, and Irina yet again doesn't know what Julia's talking about, you know? Obviously, Julia just goes back home, and then what does she hear from her apartment? From Julia's apartment, right next door, that's where Irina lives, and she could hear a scream and objects clattering to the ground. Julia panics and she begs the landlady, that speaks full-on Romanian by the way, to open the door. And once they open the door, Irina is nowhere to be seen. Irina is missing. I wonder what happened to her. I really do. So when Irina's boyfriend came the next day looking for Irina, because she hasn't been answering anyone's calls because she's missing, Christian, the boyfriend, Irina's boyfriend, was just banging on the door. Julia heard all of this commotion. She came out and she spoke to Christian. She asked Christian for a favor, which was to go to the opposite building's apartment and to knock on the creepy man's door. And when he does that, nobody opens the door up until Christian left, and then Julia summed up the courage to knock on the door herself, and a frail old man answered. And that wasn't the creepy guy, it was his father. But later on, the creepy guy had enough and he called the police on Julia, and the police showed up outside of Julia's apartment with the police officer and the creepy guy, and he complained saying like, oh, you've been following me, blah blah blah. He pressed charges against her, which were inevitably dropped, and they shook hands on it, and Julia felt so creeped out by this guy. Then Julia and her husband decided to have an argument. Julia was like, why don't you believe me? This guy is a creep and so on. Stop talking to me like I'm a effing child, and just believe me that this guy is watching me, following me, and he's up to no good. So her mental health is deteriorating. She is losing her mind. And she said, I want to leave this apartment. I can't eat, I can't sleep. I am losing my mind. The husband, Christian, was like, I don't know how to help you. And in every horror film, it's the husband that dismisses everything and are completely useless at times. So Julia and Christian go to a work party event, and when they are there, Christian was making fun of Julia's fear over the local serial killer, and Julia got very upset for good reason. I mean, why would your husband make fun of your fears and your paranoia and so on? Julia gets upset for good reason, and she leaves the workplace event. She left her husband behind, and she rushes home. Before she gets home, she gets on a train, and guess who's in the train with her? So the creepy guy finally speaks to Julia, and she asks him, why are you following me? And he said, I've been watching people from my window for a very long time. They haven't really noticed. However, it feels good when the pretty girl from across the street waves hi and wants to say hello. And as Julia was listening to him speak, like, she was very much creeped out by him. She really was. And when she looks at his plastic bag that he was carrying, it looked like the silhouette of a severed head. That was Irina's head in the bag, 100%. Gets off the train a bit early. She was like, F this. She rushed back to her apartment and she packs her bag. As soon as she packs her bag, she could hear music playing in Irina's apartment. She was curious. She walks into the apartment. She takes a look around. And the apartment was unlocked. I don't know why she walked in if the apartment was unlocked. So she's taking a look around and then she sees Irina sitting on the chair facing the window. However, her head was missing. It was just Irina's lifeless body. Oh my God. So the creepy guy is called Daniel, and he just came up behind her and placed a plastic bag over her head, and it was just chilling. Oh my God. So Julia is like fighting for her life. She's freaked out, and Daniel places her on the bed, on Irina's bed, and he said, if you scream, I will kill you. And then she was like, Julia could hear her husband walk into the apartment, and she screams help, and he immediately cuts her throat. And as Julia was crawling away from Daniel, the creepy guy, she was heading towards a cabinet where Irina hid her gun. So as the creepy guy laid beside her, he was just like caressing her body and everything, and they were looking into each other's eyes. This guy is such a creep. And Julia pretends to be dead and shoots Daniel with Irina's gun. She shots him like 2 to 3 times. I'm like, thank God, you go, girl. So Julia comes out covered in blood, and she just stares into her husband's eyes like, I bloody told you so. You know, I don't understand why her husband was so unsupportive. Like, why did he not support her from the beginning? Investigate further, you know? He was like, well, this guy might be creepy, however, he lives in the area. So if you're in the cinema, he might be there too. And this is our local grocery store, he might be there as well. This person is our neighbor, you would run into him. So I don't know what the big deal is. So that was her husband's angle. He did not believe her, not once. Thank God she survived, but poor Irina didn't. I liked Irina, she seemed cool, you know? Anyways, guys, this film really creeped me out. But let me know if you've watched the film, what your thoughts and opinions are about it. I really want to know what you guys think. I feel like the acting was phenomenal. The costume designs was top notch, you know? They really made the creepy guy look creepy, and it's just a work of art in my opinion. Anyways, stay safe, stay hydrated, and I will see you guys in my next one. Don't drink and drive. I'll see you soon. Bye.